Okay, so in this tutorial, what I'm going to cover is how to create a custom staircase, mainly looking at the shape of the staircase, which is what we're going to be customizing. Okay? So what I have here is just a wall. It's a pretty simple exterior wood siding, wood stud wall, and it really doesn't matter. You could draw any wall. And this is just really for this tutorial to kind of show the steps because we typically want to have a wall next to a staircase. Now, the next thing we are going to do is come into our elevation lines, okay? And what we're going to do, our elevation drawings. What we have to do is create a new level line, okay? And that level line is going to be for our stair landing. Since we're customizing the staircase, we need to be able to tell Revit that we want to go from the first floor up to the landing. Then we draw our own landing. And then we want to create a second set of stairs that go from the landing up to our final floor or the second floor. Okay. But in order to do that, we need to specify a landing height. And we're going to do that by adding a level to our Revit model. The way we add levels is pretty simple. We're going to go over here to the architecture tab all the way to the right. Under the datum panel, you'll see level. So I'll click right here. And I know I'm going to want to place the level somewhere between the first floor and the second floor. I don't really care at this point where I place it because we're going to adjust it anyways. So I'll just go ahead and click and move this all the way to the other side. I'll hit the escape key, and then you'll notice that our marker is on the left side when it really should be on the right side. So I'll go ahead and click here, click on the line, and you'll notice that we have these check boxes. So if you click on the checkbox, that will bring up the marker. So if we uncheck, it'll hide it on this side. Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and just for consistency, bring this all the way over to the other side. Let's change level 9. Oops, let's not do that. We'll go ahead and double click. You have to zoom in to make sure that you're actually clicking on the words. We're going to change this to landing. Would you like to rename corresponding views? Yes, that just means do you want to rename all of the other views and all of the other sheets in Revit. So you'll notice that we now have a landing for ceiling plans, we have a landing for floor plans, and so on. Now we have to specify the height. So to specify the height, we really need to think about our staircase and what kind of design do we want. Now I'm going to assume that since we're doing this custom staircase, this is going to be more maybe of a grand staircase, something larger. And so I probably want more height over here. So assuming that the second floor is 12 feet, right? Then I can say, well, my landing really should be, or I want this landing to be close to the bottom. I want it to be in the middle of the room. I want it to be higher to the ceiling. You can really specify the landing wherever you want. I'm just going to place this one right in the middle, so it's 6 feet. Okay. I'm not going to change the roof height simply because our staircase, we're just focusing right here between the first floor and the second floor, and that's where our staircase is going to be placed. Okay. So now that I have my landing, let's go back to our first floor. And we're going to go ahead and create a stair. Now, we're going to start off with a very simple generic stair, and then we're going to begin to edit and manipulate that stair. So I'll click on stair. I'm going to change the location line to run left. And that's all I'm going to do. So I'll come over here. I'll zoom in, make sure I'm clicking on the face of the drywall. And come up here and click. There we go. So there's one stair. And now I'll go ahead and click on landing. Okay. By the way, really quickly, I think I forgot to mention this when we're creating the stair. Just double check, make sure that the base level is set to first floor and that your top level is set to landing. Okay, because we want to create a set of stairs that goes from the first floor up to that landing level that we added. Then I'm going to come over here and click on landing. Okay. So now we can go ahead and create whatever landing we want. I'm going to click on, we have two options. We could create one by picking two runs, okay, which we don't have the second run anyways, or we could create one by sketching one. So I'll click this, and that's going to take us into our drawing tools. So I'm going to draw a landing, and this shape really could be whatever shape you want it, whatever you want it to be. So I'll just, draw something like that. And say that's going to be my landing. So I'll hit the check mark. And there we go. So what we did right now by hitting that check mark was to end the landing. We're still in the stair command. And when we're in the stair command, you'll notice that we're still in that sketch mode for that. So to complete this set of stairs, I'm just going to hit the check mark. Okay. That gave me an issue with the railing, but that's okay. Let's go into the 3D view. Let's go ahead and change this to shaded view. And that's all we have so far. Okay. So now let's go up to the second floor. And the reason why we're going up to the second floor, if I could find it, is because we're going to go create a drawing or create a set of stairs that goes from the landing up to the second floor. Remember that the first floor gets cut at 4 feet off of the ground, right? So when we when we're in our first floor plan, we're technically 4 feet off of the first floor. So I can't see anything from landing up above, which is why on my first floor, it comes in dotted. So if I want to add a second set of stairs from landing to second floor, then I need to go to the second floor so that I can actually see it. Okay. So now from here, what I'm going to do is we're going to create another set of stairs. Okay. And this one, I'm going to want it to run center. Okay. So I want it to be at the center of my landing. So I'm going to adjust the location line, center. And right here where it says base level, I'm going to change this to landing because the base of my stair is going to be from the landing level. And the top is going to go up to second floor. Okay, I'll hit apply. And then I have to find the midpoint. Now remember that the midpoint is in the form of a triangle. Okay? So, and also notice that I'm clicking on the outside line, not these two double lines. These two double lines are the handrail. What I want is the edge of the actual landing. So I'm going to click right there. And I'm going to just go straight out. Notice that I get that blue line, and then I also get a blue line right here. That is a sign that tells me that I'm perpendicular to my landing. Okay, if I start angling, you could already begin to see the bottom thread. It's kind of hard to point to, but is already running into the landing. And the same thing if I start turning it this way. So it's really important that you are actually perpendicular to the landing. So now I'll go ahead and click there. And there we have our second set. Now I'm not going to finish it because at this point we can go ahead and get started on actually editing the stair. So I'm going to click on this landing or click on the stair, and I need to convert it. So I'm going to click on convert over here. How do I have? Yeah, so let's click on convert. And it's going to give me this warning saying that if I convert this into a custom staircase, I cannot turn it back into a default staircase. Okay, default staircase meaning we can't use any of the properties that Revit uses to generate these kind of default staircases that we've been creating. So I'm okay with that. I'm just going to hit close. So that converted, that little click there converted the staircase. Now we need to edit it. So I'm going to click up here and select edit. Make sure that your staircase is still selected. Okay, so now we begin to see something we really haven't seen up until this point. We have green boundary lines. Typically, we've seen the magenta colored ones. Okay, and then we also have a blue line. So, and then we have these white lines, which represent the treads. Okay, now these middle lines are kind of irrelevant. They move and adjust however they want to as we begin to make these changes. What's important is going to be the green boundary lines and then the top and the bottom tread lines. Okay? And then we're going to have to adjust this blue line. So the first thing what we want to do is begin to create the shape. Now we can select the green line and begin to kind of make a shape that we want. But I actually prefer to create reference planes. Okay. And the reason why I prefer that is because the reference plane can be easily rotated. We could adjust it. We could play around with it and get the shape that we want before actually making the change. So in other words, I'll go into the architecture tab. All the way to the right, we have reference planes. Okay. And again, a reference plane is kind of an imaginary line that we can use. So I'll click, I'm going to say, you know what, I want this to go maybe, I don't know, 60 degrees. The other benefit too with the reference plane is that I can specify angles a lot easier. Whereas if I just kind of eyeballed the whole thing, you know what, let's do that again. I don't want 60. I'm going to want to go just kind of perpendicular. So I believe, there we go. That looks 35 degrees. Looks like it's parallel to the staircase. So I'm going to go 35 degrees there. And over here, maybe on this side, I want this to taper in. So maybe it begins to taper at, let's go 50 degrees, just like that. So now my staircase is going to taper up. Okay. So now that I have these reference planes, I can easily click and adjust these and move these. I could move this over, right? What I actually like to do though is just use the align tool, AL, click on the reference plane, then click on the green line. Now you'll notice that the white lines adjusted, right? They moved over. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So if they don't freak out. It's fine. Again, we're not concerned with these middle tread lines. All right, so now I'll move this one. I'll click on this using the align tool. I'll click on the reference plane, then I'll click on the green line. There we have that. Okay. Now we have to adjust the top and the bottom tread lines. Okay. So I mentioned when I was saying we don't have to worry about the tread lines, I was referring to these middle ones. The top and the bottom ones are important. Now what we have to do is make sure that all of these corners, that the tread line and the green lines are joined together. So what I'm going to do is use the trim extents, okay, or TR. And I'm just going to click there and click there. Oh, and that adjusted that. Let's do that one more time. Okay. So here, let me undo that. Let me explain why. So you notice that the green line. So first of all, I'm talk about everything kind of switching right now in a minute. But you'll notice that the green line and the tread line are, the green line kind of is extended. So I'm going to go ahead and fix this corner first by clicking again and making sure that that's aligned, right? Or those two are touching. Now, what ended up happening over here is that it kind of got tweaked. And it could be, my guess is that the angle of all this is too tight. Let's see, let me check the distance from there to there. Yeah, okay. So you see how the distance, and I didn't account for this, but that's okay. These problems come up all the time. So you'll notice that the distance is 2 feet 7, right? Now, my default staircase by default is 3 feet, and that's good because that's kind of building code. You want it to be 3 feet. So what ended up happening is Revit is starting to kind of struggle to try to fit everything within those 3 feet. You'll notice that the bottom side here got changed as well. And the reason why that matters is because our treads have to be a certain distance. Remember when we were covering the staircase or the first stairs, our treads have to be a minimum of 11 inches. And then they also have to be a minimum of 3 feet. So Revit is trying to kind of like squeeze all of these parameters within this drawing that I'm creating. And it didn't help that I am tapering this and squeezing it less than 3 feet. So let's go ahead and just move our reference line. You know what, let's select it. I'm going to rotate it. Change the placement of my rotation to this point there. And let's bring that out, I guess. What is the distance now? I really want it to get that taper feel. So, okay, so that should be fine. So that right there is 3 feet 5. So let's go ahead and use the align tool. I'm going to align the reference plane and the green. There we, just like that. I can go ahead and delete this reference plane at this point. Now we also have another problem here, that these treads got rotated. So what I'm going to do is I'm not sure how this is going to work out just yet. So let's go ahead and adjust the bottom tread so that it's parallel. And let's use our trim extents again to clean up this corner. And we'll do the same thing over here, clean up that corner. Oh, make sure that you click on the boundary line and not the reference point. So I'm going to delete this just to make sure, because it's really important that all of these lines are connected or else it's not going to work. Okay, so it looks like I have my staircase, at least the shape, right? The last thing I need is to adjust this blue line, okay? This blue line refers to kind of the structure. This is going to help Revit to do all of its coding and all the backend stuff on how it connects from floor to floor. So we need to tell Revit what is the middle of this staircase. So I select the line and I'm going to click and move this to the midpoint. Again, that midpoint is that triangle. Click and move and find, there's that triangle. That's the midpoint there. Okay. And there we have, I think we're done at this point. So let's go ahead and hit the check mark. Okay. That edited the form, but we're still in sketch mode. So we hit the check mark again. And now it's actually going to create the staircase. Hopefully. There we go. Let's go ahead and check that out really quickly. Okay. There is our staircase. Now, obviously, we're having this issue with the railing, and that we'll fix that at the very end. Okay. Let's do that one more time, hopefully with less problems in this staircase. So let's go to the first floor. I'll go ahead and click on the stairs. We'll click on edit stairs. And then I'm going to click on the convert. It's in this pull down right here. Oh, no, I have to select the stairs. Sorry. Select the stairs, then convert. Okay. We get that error saying we can't undo this. Okay. And now I'll go ahead and click on the stairs again, or click on the tools and click edit sketch. There we go. So again, I'm going to use a reference plane. You don't have to. There. But let's say I want a 65-degree rotation. There's my reference plane. So now I'll go ahead and use the align tool, and I'm going to edit this boundary line. Notice that this time the tread lines didn't adjust. That's what I was saying before. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And if they don't worry. All we care about is just the entire boundary of our stairs. So now I'll use the trim extent and click on this line and click on a green boundary line. Okay. That's touching there. I didn't edit anything over here, so that should be fine as well. So now the last thing is my middle blue line. The length here never changed, so that's still the middle point. Over here, though, it did change, so I'm just going to click and drag and wait until I get that triangle. There we go. And it's that simple. We just had problems with that first one. So let's hit the check mark, and there's our staircase. Let's go check that out. Oh, I'm still in sketch mode, so I have to hit that check mark. I noticed that I'm still in sketch mode because there's, you'll notice that this is ghosted, and things begin to not look correct. You'll start picking up on little signs. So that's a sign that I'm still in sketch mode. So let's click the check mark. And I don't have a handrail. That should have been the other sign. Okay, so there we go. Now remember, we could always make changes. Watch the previous tutorial. We can make all sorts of changes to our actual stair type. That makes it look a lot better. And that is essentially changing the shape and creating our own custom form. Now let's deal with the handrail. Okay, so I'm going to click on the handrail. Let's go to the second floor. Can we do that? Okay. Yeah, let's go to the first floor actually, because that's where the handrail actually exists. So I selected, let's click on the actual, no, let's click the actual handrail. So let me go ahead and hit the tab key on the keyboard. Remember, the tab key allows us to toggle between different objects. So by placing our cursor over the handrail, if I click right now, oh, it still wants to click on it. Sometimes it wants to click the actual staircase. Okay, but just make sure that you click on the actual handrail. And then what I'm going to do is select Edit Path. Okay. Now, the thing about handrails or any guardrails is that Revit will only create a guardrail with one continuous path. Okay. Now we need to break this up. So I hit the delete key. I could select that path and delete it. However, Revit is not going to create this because it has to create the rail in one continuous path. It cannot do two handrails at the same time. So it cannot skip, just like we have it here. So what we're going to have to do is select either the left side or the right side and delete. Oh, there's a little point there. And delete every aspect of that handrail so that it's only continuous on one side. Okay, I'll hit the check mark. You probably should save it. I'm going to cancel on this tutorial. Okay, so now what we need to do is we have one rail. We now need to create the second rail. So we're going to go back to architecture. Now we've covered this in the past. We'll go ahead and create rail. And I'm going to use this magenta line. I should note, let me go back. Sorry, I forgot to mention one thing. When I click on this handrail, you'll notice that I have a constraint over here that says offset from path 1 inch. So it's going to offset 1 inch from my boundary line path, from that line that I created. Okay. So that's just a side note that we have to consider. So we go create our railing. And I'm going to draw the path. I'm going to start over here on this side. And I'm just going to cut through right there. I think the original one had it cutting in and then going down. I'm just going to ignore that and come straight down. Okay, I'll hit the escape key once, actually twice. And let's go ahead and select both of these. Oh, I guess I'm gonna have to do it individually. So I'll click this one. I take it back. No, we don't. Right here, offset, we don't have to select. I thought we had to select, but we don't. So offset from path, change this to 1 inch and apply. Okay, now we're not gonna see any changes here. We'll see the change once we actually create the rail. So we'll hit finish. And there is our rail. Now let's take a look at that. Would you look at that? It did not, well, it's two things. It should actually be, well, the obvious thing, it should go up, right? And up to the landing, but it should also have offset it inside, not outside. So we could make that change and let's go negative. Let's see what happens there. There we go. So now that's on the inside. And then what we can do is select this button. Notice that again, I have this railing selected. I'll click pick new host, and then I'll click this stair. And give it a minute. And there we go. And now it adjusted that. So now we have a staircase, our own custom staircase in the shape that we want with the railings allowing us to walk through it. Okay, so that's how we create these custom staircases. Right, hope that was helpful. Good luck.